was the Inflation Reduction Act. So that, just objectively speaking, was not your claim. Stop lying.
Hang on.
Okay.
I
While we're hanging on, I want to thank a couple people. Laura, thank you so much for the $30 donation over on PayPal. Laura said, your debates are keeping me sane these days. Laura, I really appreciate you for the love. For the 6.7 thousand people in the TikTok stream and the couple thousand over on YouTube, please spam WLaura down below in that chat. As well as thank you so much for the Galaxy Cinna. I'd also like to thank Brianna with the $25 donation over on PayPal. So please show some love to Laura and Brianna. And then I just want to give a very special thank you once again to Emma and Katie and Sid for the $100 from Emma and the $50 from Emma and the $50 from Sid. You guys are so incredibly kind. That is literally so much fucking money. I do not deserve that at all. Please show even more love to them, y'all. Thank you guys so much, as well as Callie too. And then Casey, thank you for the $10 on Venmo as well. Guys, thank you all so much for the love. Yeah, and if you're watching and you do want to support either me or Johnny, I'm going to go and assume that you also have your Venmo and your PayPal and the link in your bio. It's in mine too. And that is the best way to support us. But yeah, take it away, the bear. Please respond to the claim.
I do just want to preface this very kindly, the bear. I feel like you believe you got to be a contrarian because you're on like a debate setting right now. It's okay to concede on something. Like if you made a claim here and you want to take that back, there is more pride and integrity in saying so than trying to double down and invest in that false claim. Like it's totally fine and nobody's going to judge you. You don't got to be a contrarian just because you want to be the opposition here. You can easily say, that was a wrong claim, you take it back. That's fine.
I'll actually take it one step further by saying I disagree with Johnny. I actually do think that people will judge you, but it will be positive judgment.
Okay, but I had to look up like what I was trying to say because I couldn't say it right. So the Committee on Oversight said that instead of lowering the prices, the IRA hiked taxes on businesses, mandates price controls on drugs, and devoted $80 billion to hire 87,000 new IRS agents to target middle-class Americans.
Okay, so you're saying that the CBO said it hiked tax on businesses. So there was like some taxes associated with carbon emissions that were later implemented beginning in the middle half of 2024 after inflation had subsided. What was your second claim?
So my second claim was that they took like $80 billion to hire new IRS agents to target the middle-class Americans.
Oh, so you're saying that Donald Trump's tax policy in which he hired IRS agents to enforce targeted middle-class Americans.
No. This was after the IRA had passed.
Wait, I mean, you're saying that the IRS agents were targeting middle-class Americans, which meant the tax code they were enforcing upon Americans targeted middle-class Americans.
No. What I'm saying is...
No, so then they weren't targeting middle-class Americans because they're just simply executing and enforcing the current tax code.
No, it literally says that the IRA was... It's like one of its goals.
So much for the Galaxy. I appreciate that.
It hiked taxes on businesses, and it devoted $80 billion and an additional $300 billion to advance Democrats' climate agenda. It had nothing to do with like, oh, we're going to reduce inflation, because doing all of that, in fact,
so now inflation. You also are making a claim about climate agenda. So it was the biggest multi-million-dollar investment into renewable energy resources ever, while also being a massive investment into fracking and also deficit reducing in the next 10 years. Listen, I don't think that the main motivation of the bill was to reduce inflation. We could actually agree there. But once again, this is a complete straw man away from the fact, Brandon, thank you for the Galaxy, that I asked you, how did they cause inflation? And you responded with this bill. I agree that this bill didn't significantly reduce inflation. 110%. Okay, I think that its main purposes were outside of that. Okay, 110%. But it did have some disinflationary pressures over the course of the next 10 years, and it definitely did not cause any inflation. But I want to go back to your claim saying that it hired new agents to target middle-class Americans. Okay, well, the only way that those agents would be able to target middle-class Americans is if the tax code they were enforcing targeted middle-class Americans. Could you agree there?
I mean, I can agree there, yeah.
Okay, whose tax code were they enforcing?
Well, I mean, it didn't, the tax code, yeah, I guess you could say that it was Trump's tax code, but
it's not like I guess you could say, it's just that it literally was.
No, but the IRA, it specifically wanted the IRS to go after middle-class Americans. Okay, it wasn't like, follow the tax code, because Trump's tax code.
So, by the way, that's just simply not true. Stop lying.
I'm not lying, actually, if you look at the stats.
Yeah, you totally are. No, the stats. The fact. No, the bear. I'm just going to clear this up. I'm just going to clear this up, the bear. Please stop lying. Okay? You're reading off of a right-leaning publication that says that this bill hired 80,000 new IRS agents, which targeted middle-class Americans. The second part of that sentence is an opinion, right? And it's opinion based upon what IRS agents enforce, which is Donald Trump's tax cuts, and which disproportionately favors the ultra wealthy. No, there were not these 80,000 new IRS agents that were specifically hired with the very specific and explicit purpose of targeting middle-class Americans. That is not true. You would never be able to point me towards any specific language inside of the Inflation Reduction Act in which says they must target Americans below this certain income threshold. That is just a lie. Please stop lying and spewing fake Republican talking points.
Okay, then let me say it this way then. So the way that the IRA was set up, it was designed to hurt the middle class because it raised prices on small businesses, and the IRS had more reason to go after the middle class. It didn't specifically.
No, that's also not true. Wait. That's also not true. Wait. That's also not true. Do small businesses track their carbon emissions?
I don't think so.
No, they don't. So, yeah, the only increases on corporations inside of the IRA was specifically on higher carbon emissions, and which went into effect in mid-2024. It didn't affect or even touch small businesses in this country. Okay, I want to make that clear. If you want to talk about tax policy in which targeted small businesses, what we should be talking about is Donald Trump's tax cuts, in which replaced a progressive corporate tax rate with a standardized flat corporate tax rate, meaning that small businesses in America grossing under $50K in revenue per year went from paying a 15% corporate tax rate to a flat 25% corporate tax rate across the, 21% corporate tax rate across the board.
Okay, so do you think that because the deficit from about $1 trillion to $2 trillion, and that was in after the year that the IRA had passed, the deficit had doubled. Can you explain that, please?
Government spent money, and actually, once again, according to the CBO, the IRA reduces the deficit in the next 10 years. Do you care about government expenditure? And if you do, why do you support Trump when he spent twice as much as the Biden-Harris administration?
Okay, I'm just saying because what you're saying is that...
I don't want you to interrupt me.
Okay, then continue talking.
The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, indicates that the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, reduces the deficit over the course of the next 10 years. So we know that whatever was added to the deficit in 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and so on, is not because of the IRA. It's deficit reducing, okay? And that's a fact from the CBO. But if you care about things that increase the deficit, you should never have voted for Trump, because in his first administration, he spent $8.6 trillion. Guess how much Biden and Harris spent?
How much?
4.6.
Okay. Like I said, I'm not really with the whole tax thing. I just know from doing my own research, and you can say that I am biased towards right-wing news media. Cool. I'm just telling you what I've read about certain things about the IRA and how it has raised inflation and that the deficit has doubled since then.
Bro, you actually haven't even given an argument that it raised inflation. I want you to do that. How did the Inflation Reduction Act cause inflation?
I'm trying to find the sources that I'm using. Hang on. All right, I gotta go.
Did he call you princess?
Dean, his username was the bear. I could have told you he was getting called princess. Come on, man.
Wait, did I just want to make sure. Did we both hear that?
Yeah. Yeah. He's got things to do. It's date night, man.
Okay. All right. KJ, thank you so much for the flying jets. I really appreciate you so much for the love, KJ. That's very kind of you. Also, wow, okay. What's going on, Ronald? Do you support Trump?
We end up being about 2 points.
All right, Ronald's not here. Guys, let me know in that chat if you support Trump and you want to come up here and debate me and Johnny. And Johnny, I've been talking a bit. Feel free to hop in more if you want. I don't want to feel like I'm
Dude, you've been cooking. You've been cooking. Do you stop somebody when they're halfway through making a really good mac and cheese? I don't think so.
Dude, honestly, I'm feeling it today. I'm in the fucking zone today. I don't know what it is. Something's in the air and I'm just locked in. You know what I mean?
You've been going at it. You've been going at it, which is crazy because just coming back from Texas, so many folks are tired, but you're like, boom, 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 boom. W's.
Hey, man, you're also up here cooking. Oh, yeah. What's going on, Midnights? Do you support Trump? Midnights, hello, quite frankly, are you here? And they're not. We're going to move on to the next guest. If you guys are in that queue, make sure that you support Trump. Go ahead and drop a MAGA down below in that chat. And while we're getting the next guest up on the live, I would really like to thank Amanda for the $50 donation over on PayPal saying always fire. Amanda, thank you so much for the love. Let's get 500 Amanda W's. Thank you for the $50. As well as Susan with the $50 over on PayPal. Show some love to Amanda and Susan down below in that comment section literally right now for the $50 donations each. That is fucking crazy, guys. Thank you so much for the love. And I'd also love to show some love to Nico for the $10, Brian for the $15, and Rhonda for the $15. Guys, thank you so very much. Now let's go to get that next guest up here. Please show some love to all of the donors. And if you are a supporter of the current administration, let me know in that chat. We'll get you up here. And yeah, we'll have a debate. All right. And yeah, also make sure that we're double tapping away on that phone screen. Let's try to get to 1.5 million likes. Quite frankly, what is going on, Mr. Christian? Do you support Trump?
What's going on, Mr. Dean? You know what? I don't. And I
just looking for debate. Sorry, man. All right, who's next? Let's go and try to get Lays up in the box. Quite frankly, that's the truth. Okay, next guest is loading in for this 6.5 thousand people tuning in. Make sure that we are double tapping away on that phone screen. Still looking for that next guest. They're quite difficult to find. All right, we're gonna get Andrew up here. We're honestly just trying to get every person up here that's spamming MAGA down below in that chat. People in the queue as well. Y'all already know it's very difficult to get debates going. What's up, Andrew? How old are you?
I'm 19.
19. Do you support Trump?
I sure do.
Awesome, Mac. Do you support Trump?
No, I just want to know what your thoughts on RFK's autism shit is. Please, please, please. Okay,
I got you. I'll happily give you my thoughts. Fucking disgusting. Absolutely deplorable. So dehumanizing and sick. What he said about individuals with autism, it was absolutely unbelievable. And then for him to then, right, like organize and charter this like federal database and which has gone to the furthest extent to identify every single American with autism, like based upon like even if you don't have like a actual like a doctor hasn't diagnosed you with autism, like even like the medications you're on or like the alternative forms of like therapy and whatnot, it's gross. It's so bad, you guys. Anyways, Andrew, you told us you support Trump. Take it away. Tell us why.
Well, firstly, do you remember me from your college?
Do I remember you from college?
From your college.
What college?
Well, we spoke on the phone 2 days ago. I told you I'll find you.
You can't keep getting away.
Don't know who Andrew is. Moving on to the next guest. Everyone just give us a minute. We're going to go and get the next guest up here right now.
Dude, you got a fan.
I guess
you got
so.
a little, one of those little stocking fans. That's crazy work. That was nuts.
Is that real? Hello, Green Apple.
Can you please talk about the people under 2 who have been deported by the Trump administration? There was a 2 who was deported by Trump.
I heard about that last night before I went to bed. I appreciate you so much for coming up here and reiterating that about me. I'm actually, I've heard about even like today before I went on live about more young children citizens that have been deported and how there is actually judges fighting it, which is a good thing. And I'll likely make a video on like all of these people, or I'll just start talking about it more in live. It is crazy. A 2-year-old that was a U.S. citizen, right, was deported without due process, and then another kid with cancer. It's crazy, you guys. It's so sick. What is up, Aspen? Do you support Trump?
Yeah, in a sense. I was here yesterday. I think the stream got taken down while I was talking.
Okay, we typically only talk to people once, but I do appreciate you for coming up. All right, everyone. Still looking for the next guest. Who's next? Maybe Ollie? I don't know. We're gonna get Ollie up here. Everyone, just give us a minute. Dean should make a current events / opinion channel in the Discord. I agree. Current events is important. I mean, honestly, I've tried to wrap them more and more into these conversations. That's why I went from saying, why did you vote for Trump to why do you support him today? What is going on, Ollie? Do you support the current administration?
No.
Okay.
I'm from the
You're obviously a kid, so I got to kick you, but at least you're a W kid. All right. Everyone, just be patient. Oh, geez. What a day. What a day. What a day. All right. Here we go, guys. What's going on, Kayla? Do you support Trump? Kayla's not even here. All right, we're going to go ahead and just go over the ground rules. So, all right, real quick, if you're in the guest request, ask yourself, do you support Trump? If your answer is yes, stay in the queue. If your answer is no, hit it. Then ask yourself, if you're of the age of 18 or above. If your answer is yes, stay in that queue. If your answer is no, hit it. Then ask yourself, are you an American and are you not driving? If your answer is yes, stay in that queue. If your answer is no, hit it. Right? I want to have confidence that every single person that I click on, every single person that I see in the queue, every person that I'm bringing up onto the live stream is an American that's of the age of 18 that is not driving, that does support the current administration. Make sure that's you, because if that's not you, you're going to be up here for like half a second and get kicked. All right? Wasting both of our times. What's going on, Will? Do you support Trump? All right, Will's not here. Half a second and kicked. Moving on to the next guest. It looks like Kayla's back in the queue, even though I just removed her. Maybe like her mic wasn't working or something. Kayla, welcome back.
Hello.
Hi, do you support Trump?
I do.
Okay, Kayla, let's have a conversation. But before we do, I gotta give you your lives. You're amazing. Thank you so much for the love, Keely. And then also Miles. Thank you so much for the $50 donation of it. Everybody, show some love to Miles. That is MYLES. Miles says, my Saturday shifts are so long, but your debates and lives help make time fly. Appreciate it, brother. Dude, Miles, I'm glad that I could help. Honestly, when I'm cooking on these streams, my time is flying as well. So I really understand where you're coming from. But seriously, thank you so much for the $50 donation. That is nuts. And then, oh my God, Eric with the $75 donation on PayPal. Holy fuck, Eric. I want to see 1,000 W Erics and 1,000 W Miles down below in that chat. Thank you, Eric. That is ERICK. Eric says, keep giving them hell, Dean. Eric, I will never stop. Thank you so much for the $75 donation. That is literally so much fucking money. Thank you, Eric and Miles. I mean, seriously, you guys are so incredibly kind. But Kayla, I apologize for keeping you waiting. W Eric, W Miles in that fucking chat right now. Kayla, take it away. Why do you support Trump?
Well, I do for many reasons, to be honest. I'd say one of the main ones is that he kind of aligns with what I think the government should be like, mainly smaller government.
Smaller government. Arguably.
When I say that, I mean like lower taxes and things like that.
Okay. Hey, how much money do you make? Well, I guess that's intrusive. Do you make under $395,000 per year?
Currently, I'm a college student, so I am I guess you could say occupation as a student.
Guess what? So your purchasing power is going to go down because of his economic policy, meaning that you're effectively getting taxed more because of his tariffs. Tariffs are a regressive tax. They disproportionately impact you more the less money you make, as you spend a greater proportion of your income on things to live, regardless if it's a good that is directly impacted by the tariffs because it's made in another country, or goods made in America that are impacted by tariffs in a second-hand nature, since a lot of raw materials used to produce goods inside of this country are from outside of this country. So arguably, I mean, you're going to be paying a higher effective tax rate. And I mean, the Institution on Taxation and Economics agrees with me. They say every American making under $395,000 per year will be worse off with less purchasing power because of his economic policy.
Interesting point there. I want to ask, why do you like support Kamala in that, like, or in that way? Like, yeah. Like, what would she have done to make that better?
For sure. Well, actually, maybe we could agree on this. You said that you want lower taxes for the average American. Her tax policy was going to give lower taxes to 100 million Americans in the low and the middle class.
Interesting. Okay.
Indubitably. One last thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe not last thing. You said you want a smaller government. So I just want to clarify. You agree with Kamala Harris? Abortion should be codified and protected at the federal level to make sure that the government can't increase in its size by allowing state legislators more power to legislate on what women can and can't do with their bodies.
I don't think abortion should be illegal, if that's what you're asking.
If it should be like federally protected.
I don't think it should be federally protected.
Oh, okay. Like why?
I feel like that's a choice that is not right for really conservative states such as like Alabama, where people, majority there wouldn't want to do that. But for a state like California, that would be the opposite is true. Like, I don't see a future in the U.S. where California would have a be illegal to get an abortion.
Is your argument like essentially leave it up to Democratic vote no matter what?
Yeah. Well, because the principle is like
just
we live
allow
in
me
a
to
free
finish
country.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question because you said yes to that one? So if everyone in Alabama wanted slavery back, would you be okay with that?
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, you said that it should be
No,
left up
we're
to
talking about
Democratic vote no
abortion.
matter what.
I don't like the way you
That
dodged
was a
that
setup
question,
question.
Kayla. Come on now.
So you said that.
How
you
is
said-
abortion
you-
and
you-
slavery the same thing?
Oh, for
It's
sure.
Abortion
about government.
actually
It's about bigger government.
is
Yeah, for sure.
more.
I'll demonstrate the relevance. Don't worry, I got you, Kayla. Because you told us that it should be legislated on the state level because you think everything should be up to a Democratic vote no matter what. So I'm actually disputing the underlying principle there. Once again, the principle that everything should be left up to a Democratic vote no matter what. And the way that I'm disputing this principle is with the use of an analogy, the analogy being this following question. If everybody in Alabama wanted slavery back, would you be okay with that?
No.
So you don't think that everything should be left up to a Democratic vote no matter what. And I'm going to kind of help you out on this next part because...
We're talking about abortion.
Right. So do you think that human rights should be protected by the federal government?
Yeah.
Can we agree it's like a violation of somebody's human rights to ingress or restrict their bodily autonomy unless you have really good reason to do so?
Well, your same argument could be applied to when you kill a pregnant woman, you get 2 counts of murder.
Yeah.
So that would be a human right there. So how would...
Okay. I don't think
How
this
would-
is actually... I'm sorry for cutting you off. Go ahead.
Comparing abortion to slavery is apples and oranges.
Okay, this is wild. No, wait. He was making the case about bigger government, and you seem to be missing that part. You said that you wanted smaller government, not bigger government, but let's understand that when Donald Trump's quote-unquote smaller government comes into play, it's to the detriment of the middle and working class, folks like you, I, and Dean. When Donald Trump dismantles the Department of Education, that's not to benefit us. That's not the kind of smaller government you want to see. That's taking away from children with special needs by violating their access to formula grants and loans, disrupting K through 12 education, and taking down from workforce development and apprenticeship opportunities. When Donald Trump says he's going to, for example, create a more unilateral form of government that concentrates power to the executive branch, that's to your detriment because then Donald Trump violates the Supreme Court rule of order and the legislative process. It's why he's been signing executive orders to outright overthrow the 14th Amendment. You don't want that because if he successfully does that, then he's coming for it. The Second Amendment or the First Amendment is sets a stage. His vision of a smaller government is not to your benefit, it's to his benefit and the benefit of people like Elon Musk. You want smaller government, you want to pay less out of pocket and get more bang for your buck. Nobody disagrees with that. You want the potholes on your road filled and you want to be able to put more money out of, or less money out of pocket to accomplish that. He's not doing that either. He's taking $4 trillion out of your pockets in the name of corporate tax cuts, and he isn't giving you no tax and tips, overtime, or Social Security. Like, the smaller government that's being delivered is not to your benefit, it's to your detriment. If I ask you to name one action that Donald Trump has taken that created a smaller government to which was to your benefit, what would you say? Because let's think about it. We're in a situation right now where if you and I go to Texas, I get more freedom than you because of Donald Trump's smaller government. Well, that doesn't seem fair. If we go to Texas, you are going to be making less money than me due to a wage gap because of Donald Trump's smaller government. We'll be paying more out of pocket than billionaires because of Donald Trump's smaller government. We'll be getting less resources from our tax dollars because of Donald Trump's smaller government. So what benefit did you get out of it? Because all I'm seeing are losses for you and specifically, and me as well.
Well, you brought up Department of Education and fixing the roads, things like that. I feel like the students, so Department of Education overall, big like federal organization. So what they decide for the entire United States may not be the best for certain areas. So my point in that is saying more things should be left up into the states because one student in, for example, California may need to learn different things based on their location than a student in New York.
You're right and
So I'm
wrong.
saying
Like,
we are wasting money by funding that Department of Education when it can be more localized.
I hear you, but you got to take a step back and look at it from a broader perspective. The Department of Education is not solely for oversight on a curriculum. It's in part to fund or better fund states who can't balance a budget. Georgia can't balance a budget properly. Pennsylvania had an unconstitutional education system. So you take funds from the taxpayers of California and redistribute them to these other states, which California now has the 4th largest economy in the world, so they can afford to do that. Furthermore, and just to end on this, got to recognize as well that when you're taking away from formulas workforce development opportunities, what do? Where do they go? Do they need a privatized, institutionalized education? And if so, is that by a lottery or school voucher system? They don't have money to do that. Rural Americans are overwhelmingly impacted. These are questions you got to ask. The DOE is not responsible just for oversight on a curriculum.
Hey, Kayla.
Yes, Dean?
Yeah, you're saying some
Yes.
crazy shit that I think I disagree with. You said that maybe there's something that kids in California need to learn that people in New York may not need to. What's something that school children in California need to learn that people in New York may not need to, or vice versa? Could you give me an example?
It wasn't like I'm trying to bring a broader perspective where one thing locally may not be right for somebody else. You know what I'm like? Does that
Yeah,
make
could you
sense?
give me
What
like
I'm
a-
trying to say.
Yeah, but just give me like a specific example. Because I don't agree. I don't know if I agree. I don't know. Can anybody think of anything that like kids somewhere in America
Well,
should
like
learn?
my
kids
thoughts
somewhere
on
else in
that
America
are
shouldn't learn?
that
Well, here's why you need the Department of Education. Perfect example. Funding was allocated to Pennsylvania, and that same funding was allocated to Oklahoma. I've gone through the budget and have spoke with analysts on the matter, as well as K through 12 educators. Oklahoma took the funding and tried to spend that as an expenditure on Bibles. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro made the same expenditure on universal free breakfast. So in Pennsylvania, students can now get a full stomach before getting educated. In Oklahoma, they can read a Bible verse, which is never going to need or be needed in the workforce, instead of eating. And the poverty rate is higher in Oklahoma than Pennsylvania, just saying. So like something to consider, that is where the Department of Education steps in and says, no, you're not making that expenditure on Bibles. That needs to be invested into the curriculum that's been approved by the education department, because you're never going to need the Bible in your work life, in your career. Like,
Right.
not everybody
Yeah.
will become a pastor.
Yeah, I feel like ultimately speaking, like the federal Department of Education is just like an unbiased check and or balance to local and state school districts and school boards. And I could give you like an example of like how this played out in my own local community. So my high school wanted to build a new school. So they did a vote in the county, right, to give them and reward them $80 million in funding to build a completely new building. Okay. But, you know, the local school board had some biases with how much of that money they wanted to spend. They wanted to cut as many corners as possible, right? So they could have as much money left over as possible that they could then go back and spend. It turned out that one of the corners they cut was to build the women's locker room a little bit smaller than the men's locker room, and that was a Title V violation that was inevitably reported to whom? The Federal Board of Education. Okay, and the Federal Board of Education doesn't have those same biases towards this random school district on the western slope of Colorado having additional funding at the end of the year. So they were like, yeah, that's wrong. You guys need to fix this. Spend that damn money you were rewarded. We're going to check you and make sure that you're doing something good. Right. And that's why one of the many reasons why I think that the Federal Department of Education is so important is because they don't have the same biases that local school boards may have for their own self-interests. And it's Title IX, not Title V. Thank you, chat.
I just feel like the government doesn't need to be allocating money to certain places when the states can do it themselves.
The states don't have as much money as the federal government does, especially red states.
Important again to note that funding that's coming from California, for example, with the fourth largest economy in the world, has been used time and again to bail out the education systems of states like Arkansas and Georgia.
Right.
That's why it's there.
Right. Like, and then when, like, if you're just saying it should all be up to the state, then you're going to have disparities in quality of education based upon geographical location. Like the Federal Department of Education bails out areas that don't have as much money to spend on education themselves. So that's why, like, for instance, federal funding accounts for like 7% of like total expenditure on education in California, but accounts for like 24% in Mississippi. Okay. It's essentially just trying to ensure that like students getting an education in Mississippi have the same quality of an education as students in California, even though California has more money to spend. Okay. It's like the difference between the amount of funding that California has to spend per student and Mississippi has to spend per student is essentially covered by the Federal Department of Education. And that's very important. Like, you're essentially arguing that there should be disparities in quality of access to education based upon where you live in America.
Also advocating for tax hikes, because in those rural communities that Dean spoke on, you're going to have higher taxes to make up the difference from the money that you're not receiving in bailouts from states like California.
Yeah, so true, Johnny. That's absolutely right. Yeah, all of a sudden, Mississippi now doesn't have as much money to spend per student because they no longer have access to federal funding. So they turn around and they just tax, you know, their constituents, which have a lower per capita, like annual income, more money. You're just advocating for more regressive taxes on disproportionately poor Americans.
Less resources, more taxes. That's the Trump way.
Damn, that's actually a really good argument, Johnny.
Thank you. You know, fun fact, I am the youngest to win a Democratic nomination for a school board in the state of Pennsylvania. I study the school stuff.
Dude, fire, Johnny.
Thank you, sir. Oh, by the way, I got to get going. Kayla, it was nice to meet you. And Dean, thank you so much for having me up. But my dog is staring at me and it's time for his walkies here. So I hope you have a beautiful night, everybody.
Johnny, thanks for popping up. Everybody show some love to Johnny down below in that chat. All right, Kayla. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to go over?
I just had a question for you about...
Run it.
Your thoughts on... Oh, sorry. Actually... I'm about, but great talking.
Okay, bye, Kayla. Moving on to the next guest. What's going on, Ron and Izzy? Do you guys support Trump?
Yes, sir.
What about you, Izzy?
Hello.
Hi, Izzy. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I do.
Age, please.
Sorry, I can't hear very well.
Age, please.
I'm 35.
Age? I'm 20.
Izzy, what year are you born in?
What?
What year are you born in?
Hold on.
Okay, yeah, Izzy's a troll.
Oh, wait, no,
okay, hey, real quick, Steven, thank you for the $20 donation over on PayPal saying, Dean, you're awesome. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Steven. As well as Bonnie with the $12. Everybody show some love to Steven and Bonnie. Then also Amy, thank you for the $10 over on Venmo, and Lauren with the $20. Show some love to Lauren, Amy, Bonnie, and Steven. You guys are awesome. As well as Ario with the $20 over on YouTube Super Chat, and Honey with the $11.11.
You know, I think he does a good job keeping illegal immigrants out of Texas. You know, I work down in Texas.
Okay, what time is it?
What?
What time is it in Texas?
4:44 right now, Dean.
4:44. Where are you in Texas, out of curiosity?
I'm in Houston.
Actually, Houston right now it's 5:44. Get fucked.
Okay, well, my watch.
Moving on to the next guest. Here we go, everyone. We're gonna get that next guest up in the live literally right now. What's going on, Nikki? Do you support Trump?
I don't.
All right. Yeah. Honestly, the only reason I knew that is because I was just in Houston. They're Central Time Zone, not Mountain. What's going on, Rachel? Do you support Trump? And Rachel's not here. If you're watching the live right now and you support Trump and you want to come up here and have a conversation with me, let me know in that chat. I'll pull you up here. We'll have a good back and forth. Quite frankly, a really good back and forth. Just let me know. Let me know. Here we go. What's going on, Julie? Truly, Julie. I like that.
Hi.
Oh, hi. How old are you?
I'm 6 years old.
That is a child. Moving on to the next guest. All right. We're going to go and get Cameron's girlfriend up in the live. Wow, we have literal babies on the live. Literal babies. Quite frankly, literal babies. Moving on to the next guest, Jake Fleming. This guy has a football profile picture and the American flag on his name. He might be 12. Well, he left when I said that. I'd say my suspicions were spot on. Guys, I actually had a lot of fun with debating with Johnny. Yeah, he had some really good points, especially about the Department of Education. Those were like some crazy good points. Very nice, Johnny. Very nice. All right, getting the next guest up in here. We got Griffin loaded in, and now Griffin is loaded in, and then Griffin left. Bro, don't get stage fright. Come on, bro. Oh man, moving on to the next guest. Here we go, everyone. Let's see who's next. Okay, please make sure if you're in that queue that you're a Trump supporter. I really want to have confidence that whoever I click on does support the president. Don't be a troll. Don't be a liberal. Don't be a child. You know what I mean? It's really easy. It's a really easy rule to follow, but so many people break it for fun. Sky, please be a Trump supporter.
I am.
Oh, okay. How old are you?
I'm 18.
What year are you born in?
2007.
Okay. So why do you support Trump?
Okay. Let me just pull up my fact.
Pull up your facts. Okay, I can't hear you unless you could see me.
Okay. I can hear you. So I've written down every single fact because your other debaters are not very good at what they do.
Okay, real quick. Do you mind if I ask you what time it is?
What?
Are you American?
Yes.
What time is it?
What?
I mean, kind of what I said. Like, what time is it?
Okay, so just hear me out, okay? You are looking for a debate with someone who supports Trump, okay? But you tryna, like, what are you trying to do here, bro?
I don't think that you're American.
And why is that? And why is that?
Because you won't tell me what time it is where you're at?
Because it doesn't matter. You're looking for a good debate, aren't you?
Well, I mean, I do think it matters. The reason why I say it matters is because, like, kind of like the purpose of these debates is to, like, inspire more people to vote for more progressive candidates in American elections. If you're not American, you can't do that.
It's 6:47 where I am, sorry. 6:47.
Okay, and, like, what state is that?
Miami.
Miami's a city.
Okay, sorry.
I'll let you run one. You seem very determined to have a debate. Feel free to run an argument.
I am.
Feel free to
Okay.
feel free to run a singular argument. You seem determined.
Okay, just give me a second.
I'll let her run like one argument, and then we're gonna move on. In the meantime, while she's looking at her fact sheet, I guess. What's up, Jamar? Do you support Trump?
I do, yes.
Okay, why is that?
I support him because I seen a video of him working at McDonald's, handing out French fries. Thought it was pretty cool. And
Are you trolling, or I just want to clarify? Is this a troll, or is this like real life?
Oh, it's real life. And I seen him riding around in a garbage truck too. It was pretty cool. At that moment, I knew I was like, "This is my guy for sure."
Okay, so why did that make you vote for him? Like, more specifically, I don't really think like him like shilling out for like press for the press like really tells us anything about what he's gonna do for this country. Like, I mean, I think that we should probably first look at like who he is as a person and what he wants to do for America insofar as his proposed policy.
Well, I mean, have you ever seen Kamala Harris hanging out French fries?
So I've not seen. Well, actually, she did. She worked at McDonald's when she was younger. But I'll take the lady who hasn't been seen handing out French fries over the man who is sending America towards a recession.
That's debatable, but no, I don't think
You're trolling, bro. You're trolling, bro. Get off the live. Moving on to the next guest, dude. That's debatable? Are you joking, dude? Oh man. You're hurting my heart. I swear to God, every single time some guest says some shit like that, it just takes like 10 minutes off my lifespan. It spikes my cortisol levels, and it's not good for me. I'm going to be bald in the next 5 years. Hello, do you support Trump?
You are going to get touched.
Okay, and you're going to get kicked. Moving on to the next guest. TikTok, please don't take my live down for that. I kicked them off immediately. Hello, Jack. Do you support Trump?
Long time ago.
Oh, man. How long ago?
Like a couple months, probably. Before the election.
All right. So why do you support Trump?
I mean, honestly, support what he's doing right now with the reorganization of the global trade order.
Of the global trade order. So yeah, this reorganization of the global trade order, in other words, is really fucking America, barreling us towards a recession, and making Americans that make less money spend a greater proportion of their income on the bare necessities to live. I think that's really bad.
You say it's making us plunge toward a recession, or what did you say?
Yeah, I said that. That's one of the two things I said. That's true.
I mean, I think it's pretty agreed upon now that it's less likely that we'll go into a recession. I think it's like a 45% chance.
That's also not true. JP Morgan has officially projected a recession this year. 45. Whoa. Do you know what the chance would be if Kamala Harris was elected?
What would it be?
0. Come on. And the Atlanta Fed went from projecting 4% growth in this quarter to negative 4% growth. So I just want to clarify, even if it was 45% chance, that's 45% higher than what it would have been if Kamala Harris was elected.
Okay, but Kamala Harris wouldn't have been doing anything to prevent the way that we've been getting taken advantage of on the trade scene.
Okay. Who's been taking advantage of America on the trade scene?
I mean, nearly every country.
So I guess every other country taking advantage of us in global commerce has made us the richest country on earth?
Yes, absolutely.
So then why would we care?
But because it's not fair to the American consumer.
Wait,
the economy is flooded with
don't-
tons of cheap Chinese products
So
that
I
are
just want to clarify. I just want to clarify.
American businesses have no chance to compete against cheap Chinese products that are made with essentially slave labor.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that part.
So you think that the reason Donald Trump implemented these tariffs was to prevent unethical means of production?
Not just that, that's part of it. Also to get rid of roundabout
Because
trade
I
where
was
he's been
gonna-
losing trillions of dollars on goods that look
Then
like
I was
they're
going to
coming
ask
through.
you if he implemented these tariffs to circumnavigate around unethical means of production. What are the unethical means of production in Canada? I mean, their minimum wage is over twice ours, and they still got hit with blanket 35% tariff. My guy.
Okay, so why do you think that there's a blanket 35% tariff on Canada? Like, what's your reason? Why do you think that's happening?
So, Jack, typically, when I ask somebody a question, I appreciate it when they answer it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Say your question again.
Yeah, you said that he implemented these tariffs to get around unethical means of production. First of all, he doesn't care about unethical means of production. His cabinet supports an $8 federal minimum wage. Come on. Additionally, if it was, even if he did hypothetically care about unethical means of production, why would he place a 35% tariff on a country who has a minimum wage over double ours?
So you're asking why did he place a tariff on Canada? Yeah, and that's because of the roundabout trade that's been happening there. The
What do you
trillions
mean
of dollars
roundabout
of
trade?
Chinese goods that come into the country and then are marked as Canadian goods and then taken from border cities into the United States and tariffed as Canadian goods.
Okay, so I just have out of curiosity, like he's also tariffing, like, for example, Canadian oil. So you're telling me that China will export oil to Canada, act like they drilled it in Canada, then export it into America? Because that just sounds like complete fallacious bullshit.
No, I'm not saying that happens with oil. I'm saying that happens with just about every other thing that comes in and out of Canada.
I also heavily disagree with that.
Why do you
Canadian
heavily disagree with that?
Yeah, because
Where do you
Canadian
think
lumber
that-
comes from Canadian forests. Canadian dairy comes
great,
from
great.
Canadian farms. But hey, man, I got you to concede on Canadian oil. So you told me the reason we're tariffing Canada is because of roundabout trade. Okay, why is he tariffing their oil? I bet we could agree with certainty that Canada is not importing oil from China under the radar. So what's the justification there? Just as like one of the many examples.
Okay, agreed. They're not doing roundabout trade with oil. So there's other reasons to put those tariffs on.
So which is it?
To get Canada to come to the negotiation table, for example, I'm not going to say the names of substances that are being trafficked across the border, one way or another. That applies more so to the southern border. But what was that?
It was my anxiety pin, Jack.
No, fair enough. What was I saying though? Okay, so yes, get them to come to the negotiation table. That applies more so to Mexico than Canada, but.
So then why did he tariff Canada?
Because of the roundabout trade. That's what I'm trying to get to.
But we just agreed that
understand.
on at least
blanket
one
tariff-
good that it doesn't apply to roundabout trade.
I understand. Can I just explain that?
Listen, I'm going to explain to everybody watching what Jack is doing. So what Jack is doing is surprisingly what like a lot of like very like culty apologetic theists do. Even if you're a theist yourself, you could agree that at least there's some culty apologetic ones out there where you try to superimpossible onto an event or an action that in all reality has nothing to do with the justification that you're making up. Like maybe like a good term that we could use to describe it is blind justification. And I feel like this is what Jack, alongside a lot of other Republicans, kind of do with his tariffs, right? Because they'll say, oh, well, they're doing this to get around like unethical means of production. Okay, well, what about like means of production that aren't unethical? He's definitely tariffing those too. And then they say, oh, well, because we're tariffing countries that don't have any unethical means of production because they do roundabout trade and still yet export goods into America, inevitably produced by unethical means of production. So then I'm like, no, that's not true. What about goods that we certainly know are not produced by unethical means of production in these countries that are not imported from another country? And then it says, oh, to bring them to the negotiation table. For what? And then he doesn't know. So, like, I don't know, bro.
Trafficking of substances. I mean, that's something I gave you there. But no, I can see what you're saying there. But also, the tariffs are just a piece of a game. We've been getting taken advantage of. Like I was saying, American consumers have just been getting taken advantage of.
Tell me how Canada's been taking advantage of us.
Okay, great. Hold on. I'm getting on my computer here to pull up some numbers so I don't just sound like completely unbased. But let's look at let's look
at what? Let me guess. The trade deficit?
No, I'm going to look at how much Canada sells their milk for. Like, just give me a second here.
He's going to look at the price of milk in Canada. Okay, while he's doing that, I want to thank a couple donors here. Sid, thank you so much for the $50 donation over on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you for the love, Sid. Sid says, also so happy that the tour is blowing up so much. You guys work so hard for it. I'm so happy for all of you. Sid, thank you for the love. That is so incredibly kind of you. Show some love to Sid down below in that chat, y'all. Please show some love to Sid down below in that chat, you guys. Everybody, W-SIDS down below, as well as Cindy. Thank you so much for the $2 over on YouTube Super Chat. Bree with the $5 on YouTube Super Chat. And seriously, W's for Sid. You guys are so incredibly kind. If you are one of the 6.3 thousand people watching on TikTok, make sure that we're double tapping. We'll probably let Jack finish out this argument, and then we'll kick him because we've talked to him a bunch before. But we'll let him finish this argument because I want to get another quick dunk about the price of dairy from Canada. As well as Michael, thank you so much for the $100 donation over on PayPal. Oh my God, Michael, that's crazy, dude. Michael, thank you. Let's get 1,000 W Michaels down below. Michael says, I'm a 40-year-old blue dot in Central Florida. Not all Floridans are the same. I used to debate my friends with the conservative media of Alex Jones, Rush Limbaugh, and Glenn Beck back in the early 2000s made it insufferable to have a conversation, so I shut down and stopped having those convos. It gives me hope. You all are keeping up the fight for sanity. Keep up the good work. Michael, thank you so much for the very kind message and the $100 donation. Thank you, Michael. Everybody, Michael, you're a goat. Make sure Michael knows that we appreciate him. And then also, Gabriella, thank you so much for the $20 on Venmo. Thank you so much for the love. Gabriella says, hey, Dean, I really appreciate your lives. Thank you for the love, Gabriella. So, did you do the research you needed to do on the price of dairy from Canada, Mr. Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit to you, it is around like 15% more expensive in Canada. I couldn't tell you why, but I'll concede that to you. So I guess the tariff point affects more auto industry, that type of thing, because I think you can admit that consumers are kind of getting gouged price wise when it comes to cars right now.
Yeah, but most of the price gouging insofar as vehicles comes from like individual dealerships charging over MSRP. So like you then advocating for policy to increase those MSRPs by making, for instance, all the engines. One moment. For instance, making the engines for all F-Series vehicles produced by Ford more expensive because they're all hit by that 35% tariff on the country of Canada will only further gouge the prices of cars for shoppers in this country.
And also to encourage vehicles to be manufactured here in the United States. But I think we could both agree, like think about, for example...
I mean, heading towards a recession is also very discouraging for manufacturers.
I disagree we're heading towards a recession. I disagree we're heading towards a recession. But to your point that the dealers are jacking up the prices, that's true, but to an extent. But also just the MSRP is raised exponentially. The car in my profile picture, a Toyota Tacoma, the MSRP on that vehicle is up, I would say... Just quick mental math, that's probably like a 95% increase in
sure, but the tariffs will only make it go higher.
Less expensive product, essentially.
The tariffs
less quality product.
The tariffs will only make it more expensive. I mean, like Ford produces...
Agreed, temporarily.
No, even in the long term. I mean, Ford produces their engine.
But think about this. If there are more tariffs on goods, you know how have you ever heard that auto parts often cross the U.S.-Canada border 4 to 5 times before they're put into like a full vehicle? Have you ever heard that?
No, I haven't.
I could find a source on it. It's from a Wall Street Journal.
I mean, I don't care. I'll accept it. It seems pretty irrelevant. I'll take it.
No, great. Okay. But so that is an issue. I mean, for a whole variety of reasons. One, the emissions that come from moving a product that many times. Two, obviously paying that tariff is stupid. Nobody wants to pay that tariff. So that's a whole reason the tariff is in play. Prevent that from happening. Also, the labor is cheaper in Canada because people are being exploited there. I think
no, that's not true.
You don't think people are being exploited in Canada?
I think more people are being exploited in America compared to Canada. Their minimum wage is over 2 times higher than our own. Stop lying.
I mean, that's fair, but I think that the conditions there are not like the workplace condition regulations are not as fully fleshed out. I've seen it with my own eyes.
Really, which one?
I mean, I couldn't like give you specifically, but I've been in facilities.
Okay, well,
in Canada
I expect specifics for this very vague claim.
I understand. That's what I'm giving you right here.
Everybody gets a minimum wage 2 times higher than our own in free universal health care. I think that workers in Canada probably have better conditions than workers in America.
Great. Give me a second here, though. So I've been in facilities in Canada watching products get manufactured, and I've seen it's largely an immigrant workforce there, people who don't have better job opportunities, and they're being there. Yes, they are willingly there, but they're spending 12 to 14 hours there a day. It is so hot in that factory. If I had to guess, I'd say 111 degrees in there. I could barely breathe for more than 15 minutes, and these people are doing it for 12 hours a day. And I have no idea what conditions, they're provided with break wise.
Okay. Yeah. What
I don't
factory?
know how much they're being paid. Sorry.
So there's 2 possible responses. The first possible response is that you're lying. And the second possible response is that really does sound like Amazon warehouse and centers for production in America.
Okay. So I've never been in an Amazon warehouse. No, this is production of just inputs for the fabrication industry. I get people are saying, trust me, bro, this is what I do for work. It's not, I mean, you can trust me or not. This is where I get the roundabout trade thing too. That was speaking to Canadian trade lawyers with my time in Canada. I get it, believe me or not, but I'm just telling you what I've seen in Canada, I don't feel like it's appropriate.
Actually, in Canada, the legal maximum for daily working hours is 8 hours on average over a week. However, this can be adjusted based upon providential laws and collective agreements. For example, in Alberta, the maximum is 12 hours per day.
I understand that, Dean, but what I'm telling you is I've seen people working in conditions that I don't think is appropriate. And I think they're people that are not presented with better opportunities. And I think it's unfair, frankly. I think they're people that are being taken advantage of.
Yeah, but Jack, what I'm telling you is that Canada unironically has better labor laws than America. Now, you could argue...
But does it have better enforcement?
Now, Jack, I want you to go ahead and allow me to finish speaking. I do not appreciate you interrupting me.
Sorry.
So I absolutely do think that Canada has better labor laws than America. All right. Now, you could argue that there is manufacturers inside of Canada that break those labor laws, just like there's manufacturers inside of America that break those labor laws as well. But see, what you are arguing is that there's significantly worse exploitive labor conditions for workers of manufacturers in Canada compared that to of America. And I just simply think that you don't have any substance to justify the position. I think that, like, so far, everything that you've said is completely rhetorical and under yourself admitted, not backed by any data or fact, but purely anecdotal based upon an experience of one manufacturing plant you went in. I'd also like to point out, I'm pretty sure a lot of the rhetoric that you just spouted was completely made up on the spot. Like, how would you know based upon one visit to one manufacturing plant in the country that there were multiple workers in there working 14-hour days?
I mean, dude, like I said, you can believe me or not. That's just my experience being there. But that's why.
But I'm asking you how you knew that predicated on you.
No, dude, I was there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. that day. And there were people there that entire time. And there were people there that were there that morning that were still there when I left.
Okay. So you saw some people working 12-hour shifts?
Yes, I did.
It seems like you're very disconnected from low-income workers in both America and Canada.
Dude, I'm not
Some people do work some 12-hour shifts on some points of the day, and that is not specific.
I understand that, and that's not a problem.
Canada.
They're willingly
so then
working.
what's the argument that Canada is more exploitative of their workers compared to America?
What I was getting to is, sure, I will concede that to you because, yes, it's all anecdotal. Anything I can give you is going to be anecdotal right here on the spot. So that's not something I can give you with facts and data. But from what I've seen, it's stuff that should not be happening. And regardless, I don't think things should be crossing the border 4 or 5 times before they get put into a vehicle anyway, because that just inflates the price unnaturally. It's ridiculous. That's why tariffs are in place. Quit doing that shit.
Wait. You don't like inflating the price of goods unnaturally? First of all,
I don't. So that's why you put tariffs, inflate them a little more on top of the inflation that's going on.
So what do you mean by unnaturally there?
Unnaturally, as in if you were to do it in the most natural, harmonious process.
Are you just saying like governed by the free market?
Say that again?
Are you just saying governed by the free market?
What do you mean?
By the term, like, it's unnatural for it to cross the border 4 or 5 times, like in an economic sense, are you saying that that's just not governed by the free market? Like, that's not like the outcome of the free market?
No, that is the outcome of the free market.
So then what do you mean by unnatural?
I guess unnatural is the wrong word there. Unnecessary would be more fitting.
Unnecessary insofar as achieving...
because the components have crossed the border so many times.
Wait. Unnecessary, like, I mean, arguably... the reason why the companies would send these like manufactured goods over the border multiple times during the manufacturing process is to produce that good for the lowest price possible. So I'd actually hedge a bet that if they didn't send that good over the border 4 or 5 times and instead centralized the entirety of the manufacturing process, the good would be more expensive. And the reason why I'm willing to hedge such a strong bet on that is because if that made the good cheaper to make, they'd already be doing it.
Yes, I actually agree with you, because that's the point of the tariffs, is to get manufacturing back in the United States. If we prevent that practice of... Yes, I conceded that to you because we're agreeing now.
But like, you're conceding on the second part, because you argued the fact that these things during manufacturing have to go over the border like 4 or 5 times. You were arguing that makes the good unnecessarily more expensive. I'm arguing that that's not true. That actually makes a good less expensive, because if centralized manufacturing in one location made it less expensive than sending it over the border 4 or 5 times for manufacturing in different locations, they'd already be doing it now.
Okay, yes. So in the current environment, yes, it is cheaper to do the manufacturing if you're bringing.
So then what's the problem?
Because labor is cheaper in Canada, which is an issue.
No, wrong.
Wrong? What?
Wrong. Their minimum wage is double ours. Stop.
I understand, but I think large scale that labor is generally cheaper in Canada.
Bro, they literally have more restrictive labor laws that are intentioned and deployed to ensure that their employees are paid more in Canada than in America.
I don't know. I think it's something about the skill gap in the labor, though. But that's just what I've seen. But
then like even
that's not even relevant.
Skill gap in like the labor force. I mean, once again, it just seems.
I'm saying like more skilled labor
another like
less
baseless
expensive in
justification
Canada.
to kind of justify like your point here. But like even if that this labor was on average less expensive in Canada compared to America, okay, well they still have better minimum labor practices than America. Right? So, I mean, this is like saying that labor is less expensive in Arkansas than California. Therefore, it's immoral for a company operating out of California to outsource their production to Arkansas. And I reject that position. Okay? As long as like minimum labor standards are upheld, even if it is lesser on average, I don't really care. Right? So, like my synonymous position would be here, although like average pay may be less for certain positions, like at the end of the day, they still have better minimum pays than America, meaning that overall, like they run a more moral economy with more moral means of production.
Okay, so then why do you think that the goods are going back and forth so many times across the border?
Yeah, dude, I don't know. I'm not an expert on what it takes to build an F-Series engine.
Well, it just seems illogical. If the labor is cheaper in the United States, why wouldn't we just bring it in from Canada where the materials are cheaper, bring it into the United States, and then do the labor here where it'd be cheaper? Why does it have to go back and forth to do the labor?
Because it probably makes the good less expensive for consumers to buy.
But why would it make the good less expensive if the logistics is the transportation?
Why would I need to know that? Like at the end of the day, it does, right? Because if it didn't, they wouldn't do it. Can we at least agree on that? Like if Ford could make their engines in America cheaper than they could make them in Canada, then they wouldn't be making them in Canada, they'd be making them in America.
Yes, I think we can agree on that.
Okay, where are they making their engines?
Ford?
Yeah. Where are
I
they making
actually
the
don't
engines?
know. I don't know about Ford specifically.
Canada. So what does that tell us, Jack?
That it's cheaper for them to make the engines in Canada.
Boom.
And do you think that that's an issue?
No.
Why not?
Because why would it be?
Also, hold on. If we're saying that it's cheaper to make the engine in Canada, weren't we just saying earlier that labor is supposedly not cheaper in Canada? I claimed it was cheaper, and you're now saying that it's cheaper to build the engine in Canada, yet the labor is more expensive there.
Hey, Jack, how many things do you think can impact how expensive it is to produce a good?
Obviously, multiple things, but do you think it's just the inputs that are impacting that?
What?
If suppose you're saying that it's just then like the raw inputs, the things that are going into the engine that are causing the price to be cheaper?
My argument is that the
And is that because it's Canada's a less valuable market to sell your goods in than the United States?
My argument is that Canada has more moral minimum labor practices insofar as a better federal minimum wage than America. So why should I care about your argument that apparently we need to force them to move their production plants to America because it's exploiting their workers?
Well, no, we
They
don't. We're not
exploit them
forcing
less than America.
I don't want to force any Canadians to move their manufacturing here. I want to force American companies to move their manufacturing here.
Thank you so much for the money, gun. I appreciate that.
That's the difference.
Let's just try this one last time because I want to see if I could clarify the issue. What is the problem with Ford making their engines in Canada?
They're an American company that's taking away and the issue is not with Ford making their engines in Canada. The issue is with the fact that it costs more to make the engine in America.
But the problem here is if they were to move their manufacturing to America, it would create more jobs, sure, but it would also produce less efficient outcomes as all of a sudden Ford automobiles would become exorbitantly more expensive.
I get that, and that's we're agreeing that's the problem. The issue is not that Ford is choosing to do it in Canada. The issue is that they have to choose to do it in Canada because it costs so much to do it here. That's the goal of the tariffs, to reduce the cost of manufacturing in America long term, among other things.
So tariffs don't reduce the cost of manufacturing in America in the long term. They just simply increase the overall cost of manufacturing outside of America.
But what? Long term, they do reduce the cost of manufacturing in America.
Why?
Because of the whole point of tariffs is it includes government subsidies for.
No! Stop it. Because wrong. No, tariffs do not include any government subsidies, and now you're actually like bleeding in to what we should be doing if we want more manufacturing in this country, which is government fucking subsidies, okay? If we truly want more manufacturing in this country, we need to design beautiful legislation to reward companies' expenditure. It is insofar as it is specifically designated on paying their employees more while producing their goods for less, okay? That is how we can naturally price American-produced goods back into American markets without placing restrictions on goods imported from other countries.
Agreed. So why we agree on that. So why didn't Kamala
and that's
Harris
why tariffs are bad.
Why didn't Kamala Harris run on that? No, but Trump.
Wait.
Trump
Not only did
runs
she
on tariffs,
not only did she run on some, she implemented them in the Biden-Harris administration.
But-
What the
but
hell do
she
you think?
didn't-
No. What the hell do
you
you
have
think?
to
No.
admit the average person didn't get that from her campaign.
What the
I'm
hell?
saying that I'm not
No.
bashing
Jack, I'm
Kamala,
answering
but
your
I'm saying
question.
that
Why are you interrupting me while I'm answering your question? You
All right, go
cannot
ahead.
you cannot ask me a question and then interrupt me when I'm responding. So you asked
I
me, why
apologize.
didn't she run on that? Not only did she run on that, she actually implemented it under the Biden-Harris administration. What was the infrastructure bill? Close to $1 trillion in government subsidies to hire more people to build and renew our infrastructure in this country. What was the Chips and Science Act? A multi-billion-dollar investment of government subsidies into American chip producers so we could go from producing 1% of the global chip supply to 30%, right? And I'll admit, it was not a highlight of her campaign, right? I agree there.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. It should have been a centerpiece. If you agree that should be a
Right,
focal
right,
point of any administration right now, I think that should have been a centerpiece, and that's something Democrats should focus on. You know, I don't hate completely the Democrat platform. I'm really just trying to give not obviously.
So,
I'm not going to
listen,
give the Democrat constructive
you
criticism,
could argue that Kamala Harris should have done something better that she was already doing, but she just should have done it better. But this is completely pivoting away from the conversation that tariffs are bad. Like,
But that's what Trump is aiming to do essentially with tariffs, though, is the thing.
no, tariffs do not equate to government subsidies. Why are you like just literally
Tariffs
lying for
include
fun?
government subsidies.
No, fuck
Historically, they do.
What? Wait,
Even-
I have a question. What government subsidies were announced and put into place on liberation?
I'd have to look into that.
Okay. Thanks.
Great, yeah. So they have not been done yet. That doesn't mean that it's not a part of the plan long term, because that is something that Trump spoke on and ran on, and that's just something that connected with me. Maybe if Kamala Harris had ran on a
What
platform,
government subsidies did he run on?
I mean, when he was speaking on it, it was specifically the auto industry. I would have to find you a source on that. It was like a live speech. It's not like a post or something tangible. It's a clip I'd have to find.
Okay. All right, Jack. Hey, man, I appreciate you for coming up.
No, it's good talking to you, dude. Like you're a smart guy. I really do appreciate like when you give me time to run it with you on here. I'd love to do it in person sometime. I'm a lot more what's the word, articulate.
I will. Yeah, you were significantly smarter than my average guess, and in a sense, I like that because at least you're trying to get educated. But in another sense, it really pisses me off because you are more than intelligent enough to recognize that his policy is bad.
I mean, hey, you might be right, dude. All I'll say is go to more college campuses and do stuff like that. That's good content. And maybe I'll run into you someday.
I hope you do, man. It'd be fun. Have a good rest of your day, man. We're gonna move on to the next guest. You know, like sometimes like people will see that I get a little bit more upset when like smarter people come onto the live. You know, I just want to clarify. Like the reason why that is because I recognize that they are intelligent and that they're more than intelligent enough to like understand and realize that his policy is bad. You know what I mean? And then it's just like Jack, for instance. I mean, to be fair, he had a lot of education on economics, and he was getting it all right up until that last point. That was like, therefore, Trump's economic policy is bad for this country. The intertwine of legitimate intelligence and political propaganda is significantly more dangerous to this country than otherwise, because it gives legitimacy to the position. You know what I mean? And I think that's something else that also upsets me. What's going on, Johnny? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I would like to say that I support all that you do.
Johnny, I'm so sorry for interrupting you. I do appreciate you for saying that you support all I do. I just got to ask you real quick, man. How old are you?
Fuck.
That's a child. Guys, make sure we are in that queue that we do support Trump, y'all. We are just looking for some debates, and we're going to go to get that next guest up here right now. Manta, thank you so much for the $15 donation over on PayPal. Everyone show some love to Manta. Hi from Finland. Hi to Finland. Thank you for the love, Manta. That is M-A-N-T-A. I apologize if I butchered your name. I'd also like to thank Katie for the $20 donation over on Venmo. Thank you so much for the love, Katie. Let's get 200 KDWs down below, as well as Morgan with the $5. Thank you guys so much. If you're watching and you'd like to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio on TikTok, as well as in the pinned message over on YouTube. I get 100% of the proceeds on those platforms. They all go straight to me, and I'll be able to give you a shout out with your name and an attached message. And it keeps the stream running. The only person that touches any of that income is Uncle Sam, unlike the fact that TikTok takes 60% and YouTube takes 60% too. Mr. Cole, welcome in. Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do.
Oh no, Cole, why?
Oh my gosh. You know what? And you were talking about being smart earlier, and I just wanted to let you know, man, that I'm smart enough not to argue with the narcissist, because I watched Charlie Kirk eat you up, bro, and there's no talking to a Democrat.
He's gonna
that can't
leave after he says this.
Do what now? I
said,
couldn't.
You're gonna like go on this rant, and then you're gonna leave before I can respond. I get it, bro.
Oh no. But go ahead.
Well, I mean,
I'll just letting you know there ain't no talking to you, because anything that anybody else has to say, you're just so much in denial in. And that's the problem with you, man.
I mean, like, actually, yeah, that's not a problem because of the purpose of the stream. So, like, this is a debate stream.
It is a problem
Cole,
because,
do you
like,
mind
I
if
can
I
agree
talk
with some
before you do?
democratic things also.
Great.
But the thing is like, if you can't ever see two sides of something, then you're just stuck in the dark, bro. Like, you'll never get out of this hole that you're in. I actually
Let me know
feel
when
for
you're
you
done.
for the sad life that you live.
Are you done ranting yet?
No, I mean, if you want me to keep going, I can.
No, I want to be able to respond to you without you interrupting me. Could you just be an adult?
I mean, I just do what you do. I was learning from you.
Okay, if you're gonna do what I do, follow after my lead, I won't interrupt you while you're speaking. Therefore, you won't interrupt me while I'm speaking. Let's just have a productive, adult, mature conversation, Cole. But anyways, so like one of the points that you said there is that you've seen like Charlie Kirk roast me. No, you haven't. What did he roast me on?
Yeah. Oh, plenty of it, bro. You do we really need to talk about it?
Yeah, give me a specific example, Cole. I don't think you will be able to. Like right now in your head, you're like, oh shit, I can't give him a specific example. I literally just said that because I'm Maga and so is Charlie. Therefore, Charlie roasted Dean.
That's the thing, is you weren't listening in the beginning, is I'm not going to give you anything to feed off of, because it doesn't matter if you think I can't, but I can. And see, that's the thing, I'm not going to entertain it, because if I do, then you're just going to be in denial, and that's a sad life, bro. I really feel for you.
I've never heard better gaslighting. You are really good at that, Cole.
No, you're really good at the narcissistic stuff that you say every day. Projecting, right?
Look at what he just did. I think we got to give him a round of applause for that shit. So he was able. Cole,
I'm glad that you're
mute. So Cole said that. Cole, 1 second. Cole said that I, right, got roasted by Charlie Kirk. Okay. So then my response to Cole is saying, hey man, give me a very specific example of Charlie Kirk roasting me. I bet you won't be able to because Charlie Kirk's never roasted me. And then Cole's response is to be like, Dean, I'm not going to feed... Shut up, Cole. Dean, I'm not going to feed into your narcissism. I'm not going to play the game. Therefore, I don't have to give you a specific example of Charlie Kirk roasting you. And to build on top of that, because you're asking me for one that means you're misogynist. Sorry, not misogynistic. Holy shit. Narcissistic. And you live a very sad life. Okay, Cole. If you're not going to like have a back and forth conversation with me, you should probably leave the live. If you just came up here to chirp and you're not willing to hear what I have to say, just chirp from the comment section, bro. Okay? Because I won't embarrass you if you're chirping in the comment section. But I will embarrass you. But I'm willing to put that all behind us if you could just give me a single example of Charlie Kirk roasting me. Feel free to unmute. You just not feel free to unmute, I guess. Like, Cole, come back. Please, Cole, come back. No. I guess we lost. He's still in the live. Okay, Cole. I maybe Cole doesn't know how to unmute.
No, I got stuff going on, man, other than this right now. Let me get back with you.
I was not ignoring.
He just left. Okay, moving on to the next guest. All right, he tried and he failed, unfortunately. Let's go and see what the next guest is. Y'all, if you're in that queue, make sure that you do Deed Support Drop, y'all. And then ask yourself, thank you for the $2 donation on the YouTube Super Chat. Same thing with Mace with the 2. All right, guys, going to drop a MAGA down below in that comment section. If you do want to come up and debate, we are just looking for some debates, quite frankly. That's true. Who's next? Let's get him up here right now. Everyone, we're going to get Levi up into the live. If you're one of the 6.6 thousand people watching, make sure that we are double tapping away in that phone screen. Y'all, while we're getting Levi up here, what's going on, Mr. Levi? Do you support Trump?
Yes, sir, I do.
Oh, Levi, age, please.
22.
What year were you born in?
2003.
What's a mortgage?
Do what?
What's a mortgage?
Still in college. Don't really have a mortgage.
But what is it?
Are you asking what is a mortgage or what is my mortgage?
What is a mortgage?
A mortgage is a loan on a house. Okay. Essentially, that you have to pay back over time, depending if it's a 15 or 30-year loan.
Convince me. Take it away, Levi.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, typically I wanted to talk about the tariffs and why I think that they would be beneficial later on in time. I don't think right now they're as super beneficial because, yes, they do suck. I will 100% admit to you that they're going to suck for a bit. But I think in the long run, if we start bringing some things back into America and start building things and manufacturing things back into America, I think that we can have a cycle of money that is going back to the American people. Because in economics, I don't want to get too far and not let you respond. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's just a very simple position. Like, so the current status quo of MAGA talking points is very simple. You cannot deny the fact that Donald Trump's tariffs today are like destroying the American economy. Okay, it is very evident. When you have the chairman of a Fed saying that a recession is on the horizon and possibly stagflation too, I mean, there's nowhere to go from there. You got to accept reality as it is, or you look crazy. So instead, the talking point right now, they are going to help the economy in the long term. And my response to that is a conspiracy theory, just like saying Bush did 9/11 or denying the efficacy of vaccines. You don't have reason to believe that, Live. You only believe that because the TV told you. Now, you can have the opportunity to prove me wrong by giving me legitimate economic justification that will demonstrate that his blanket tariffs today will lead to positive economic outcomes in the long term.
Okay, well then I'll try my best. I'm not going to sit here and be like I'm an economic expert. I'm definitely not. Just based on what I know, like I think that bringing things back into America would be nice if we had.
But how are they going to do it? My question is justify that tariffs will do that in the long term. Because right now they're hurting America. They're sending things out of America. We're heading towards a recession. The dollar's inflating. Huge companies are laying off their employees. GDP growth went from a projected 4% increase to a projected 4% reduction. The stock market has gone down 7.5% since his inauguration. So give me any reason to believe that they're going to help the country in the long term.
Okay, so what I think is that if you have a tariff and something becomes more expensive that is imported in, so say like, I don't have the money to have a cleaner come and clean my house for me. So what do? I have to put in my own work and clean my house. So what my hope would be that if we put a blanket tariff on things and things get more expensive, then Americans will realize, okay, I don't want to buy this stuff because it's more expensive. I need to start manufacturing it myself so that I can produce it out. Okay, I see that.
What the fuck? That guy was banned. What? He was banned for a community guidelines violation. Dude, what? TikTok's tripping. What? I'm sorry. Hey, man, if you're still watching, just know that you got astray. I have no clue why you were banned. Okay, I guess we're going to move on to the next guest. I, once again, have no clue why that guy was banned. Let's go and get that next guest up in here. Maybe because, maybe they verified that he's underage. I don't know. If you're watching and you want to support me, support the stream, you can support me through Venmo and PayPal, which you can find in the link tree in my bio, by the way. It's also in the pinned message over on the YouTube stream. What's going on, Levi? Do you support Trump?
Yes, sir, dude. How's it going?
Oh, man, it's going all right. I'm actually having a pretty good day. How about yourself?
You know, every day's a good day, so I'm just better than others.
Chris, thank you so much for the $5 on Venmo. Not every day was a bad day. I remember an especially bad day, November 5th. Anyways, take it away. Tell us why you support Trump.
Well, I just kind of had a question for you. I'm not like super knowledgeable about economics, but from what I know, countries get to charge us these super high tariffs and we just get to charge them like nothing. Like, why is that fair?
Okay. Well, first of all, I essentially disagree with all tariffs unless they serve like a legitimate purpose, like reducing immoral means of production. However, the repercussions of other countries tariffing us is like maybe a little bit of a decline in our exports. But the repercussions of us tariffing all other countries is a fucking recession.
So, but like in the long run, like why is it going to cause a recession?
Why is it going to cause a recession? Because consumers spend less of their money and they save more because they're less confident in all markets.
Okay, so but like he was saying before, in the long run, like in the grand scheme of things, wouldn't that push people to manufacture more stuff in-house?
The only reason why you believe that is because Trump and millions of Republicans have said it. There's no legitimate reason or economic justification to point towards that idea. Feel free to prove me wrong.
Well, like I said, I don't know. I'm just like, I just was asking,
Yeah, no,
essentially.
for sure. Well, that's my perspective. I don't think that there's any legitimate
Okay.
justification for that belief.
No, that's understandable. Okay, that's it.
Anything else, man?
No, man, I was really just wondering that. That was like on my mind when I saw the live.
Okay. Hey, man. Well, good questions. I appreciate you for coming up, Levi.
Nah, no problem, man. Have a good day.
You as well. Michael, thank you for the $5 over on PayPal saying appreciate you, team. I appreciate you as well, Michael. Everybody, please show some love to Michael down below in that chat. What's going on, Emperor? Do you support Trump?
Hey, yeah.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because Donald Trump's gonna save the world, man.
Okay. Why? How? I guess how would be a better question. How is he going to save the world?
Well, you got to look back in history, bro. Like, you got the military-industrial complex took over America, bro.
Oh, no. Okay.
And
He
they
wants
killed
to further
Kennedy.
fuel. Okay.
They killed Kennedy.
Get out of here. Hi, Sam. You support Trump?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We kicked that last guy, so you're next up. Why do you support Trump?
Yes, I support Trump because I just didn't feel like Kamala Harris was a better candidate.
Why?
Okay, so first of all, when she would speak, she wasn't very coherent. Let's ignore that. But the fact that she would always say, I come from a middle class family. And yeah, so that
I personally never heard her say that once. I mean, of course I saw a clip, but I was like very politically involved and watched nearly everything. And I personally never heard her say that once. But I want to just ask, who are you going to take? The woman who is reminding Americans that she's come from a middle-class family, or the man that's raped a woman and is sending America barreling towards a recession, tried to ban all new Muslims from coming into this country during his first administration, hit on a 10-year-old girl, boasted about walking into the changing rooms of half-naked underage teenagers? Like, what are we doing?
Okay, the reason I voted for him was because he's very anti-establishment. And
because he wants his new, worse establishment.
Yes, okay. So my main reason why I voted for him is because he did very good in the first term.
Okay. What's one thing he did that was very good?
So he cut the taxes.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. So you like that? Okay. So first and foremost, the bill costs $2 trillion. 80% of the cuts in the bill went to top 1% earners, and it only led to a 0.02% increase in our GDP per year. Terrible investment, increase income inequities. But if you think that cutting taxes is very good, Kamala Harris ran on tax cuts for 100 million American workers in the low and middle class. Donald Trump's policy effectively increases taxes on every American making under $400K per year. So even in accordance with your own idealistic goals of the average American paying less in taxes, Kamala Harris was a significantly better candidate.
See, look, I really like when Kamala Harris, she was saying all these good points, on their first debate. But I feel like that's what Democrats do. They say all these good things, but they don't execute them.
So the Biden-Harris administration executed on significantly more of their plans than Trump. I mean, let's just get it clear. They passed the PACT Act, the Infrastructure Bill, the CHIPS and Science Act, the American Rescue Plan, upon many others. What did Donald Trump do? I don't know, tax cuts? And not to mention his failed promises of, a border wall that he was going to build and stick the bill to Mexico never happened. The infrastructure bill never happened. Promise that he's going to cut taxes on day one. Cut prices of groceries on day one. And he said, quote unquote, it was going to happen so fast and make your head spin. Never happened. Okay. He said that he was going to end the Russian-Ukrainian war on day one. We're 100 days into an admin, and he's literally begging Putin to stop bombing Ukraine on Truth Social. So it never happened. I think that if you wanted to vote for the candidate that was more likely to uphold her promises to the American people, should have voted for Harris.
Well, it's funny. Okay, I didn't vote for either candidate, but I do support the current administration. It's just because didn't Kamala put into jail people who were smoking weed?
And you got astray. Sorry, man. You cannot say that word on TikTok Live.